In the early days of personal computing, gaming and Linux existed in almost entirely separate worlds. While Linux thrived among developers, researchers, and enthusiasts who valued control, transparency, and customization, gaming evolved along a different path, one dominated by proprietary systems, closed ecosystems, and the near-total reliance on Microsoft Windows. For years, the divide felt permanent. Gamers who wanted access to the latest titles had little choice but to stay within the Windows ecosystem, while Linux users accepted the trade-off of limited compatibility in exchange for freedom and flexibility. It wasn't that Linux couldn't handle games. It was that the industry never built for it. And yet, quietly, persistently, a movement began to take shape, one that would eventually redefine what gaming on Linux could be. At the center of this story is a concept that on the surface sounds deceptively simple: compatibility. The challenge was not to recreate games or port them individually, but to make Linux capable of running Windows games as if they belonged there. This idea gave rise to Wine, a project whose name humorously stands for Wine is not an emulator. Wine's purpose was revolutionary. It aimed to translate Windows system calls into Linux equivalents in real time, allowing software designed for one operating system to function on another without the overhead of emulation. It was an ambitious goal, and for years, progress was slow, fragmented, and often frustrating. Games might launch but crash unexpectedly, or run with severe graphical glitches. For many users, it felt like a technical curiosity rather than a practical solution. Still, the people behind Wine kept going. They were not backed by massive corporations or driven by profit margins. Instead, they were motivated by curiosity, passion, and the belief that computing should not be locked behind a single platform. They spent countless hours reverse engineering Windows behavior, fixing obscure bugs, and improving compatibility one application at a time. Their work laid the foundation for everything that would follow, even if, at the time, it felt like progress was measured in inches rather than miles. As the years passed, another critical piece of the puzzle began to emerge: graphics performance. Modern games rely heavily on advanced graphics APIs, and for a long time Linux lagged behind in this area. DirectX, Microsoft's proprietary graphics technology, was the standard for most games, and translating its behavior into something Linux could handle efficiently proved to be an enormous challenge. Early attempts resulted in significant performance losses, making even successfully launched games difficult to enjoy. But then came Vulkan, a low-overhead cross-platform graphics API that offered a new path forward. Vulkan allowed developers to access hardware more directly and efficiently, and crucially, it was not tied to a single operating system. This is where projects like DXVK entered the scene. DXVK translated DirectX calls into Vulkan, dramatically improving performance for many games running on Linux. Suddenly, titles that once struggled to maintain playable frame rates began running smoothly. It was a breakthrough moment, though still largely unnoticed outside of niche communities. The pieces were coming together, but they had yet to be unified into something accessible to the average user. That unification came with Proton. Developed and supported by Valve, Proton built upon Wine, DXVK, and several other open-source components to create a compatibility layer specifically tailored for gaming. Unlike its predecessors, Proton was not just a technical framework, it was a user-friendly solution integrated directly into Steam. With a simple checkbox, users could enable Proton and attempt to run Windows-only games on Linux. What once required extensive configuration, command line knowledge, and patience was now reduced to a seamless experience. For the first time, Linux gaming felt not just possible, but practical. Valve's involvement marked a turning point. As a major player in the gaming industry, Valve had both the resources and the influence to push Linux gaming forward in ways that independent developers could not achieve alone. Their decision to invest in Proton was strategic, driven in part by a desire to reduce reliance on Windows and maintain control over their platform. But regardless of the motivation, the impact was transformative. Proton received regular updates, compatibility improved rapidly, and more developers began to take notice. Yet even as Proton gained attention, it remained deeply rooted in the work of countless contributors. Open-source development is rarely the story of a single hero. It is a tapestry woven from the efforts of many. Programmers from around the world submitted patches, reported bugs, and shared solutions. Some focused on specific games, ensuring that popular titles ran flawlessly. Others worked on low-level optimizations, improving performance across the board. There were no headlines celebrating their achievements, no award ceremonies recognizing their contributions. Their work was often invisible, felt only in the smoothness of gameplay or the absence of crashes. Parallel to this technical progress, a vibrant community began to grow. Websites dedicated to tracking game compatibility emerged, where users could share their experiences and provide detailed reports. These platforms became invaluable resources, offering guidance and reassurance to newcomers. Forums and discussion boards buzzed with activity, as users exchanged tips, troubleshooting advice, and custom configurations. It was a collaborative effort, driven by a shared goal, making Linux gaming better for everyone. One of the most remarkable aspects of this movement was its resilience. The challenges were constant and varied. Some games used anti-cheat systems that were incompatible with Linux, preventing them from running at all. Others relied on obscure features or undocumented behavior that was difficult to replicate. Hardware support was another hurdle, as drivers for certain components lagged behind their Windows counterparts. Each obstacle required a different approach, a new solution, or sometimes simply patience. And yet the community persisted, chipping away at each problem until progress was made. As Proton matured, its impact began to ripple outward. Game developers started to pay attention, recognizing that a growing number of players were using Linux. Some studios began testing their games with Proton in mind, ensuring compatibility even without native Linux versions. Anti-cheat providers gradually introduced support for Proton, removing one of the biggest barriers to adoption. Hardware manufacturers improved their Linux drivers, acknowledging the platform's increasing relevance. What had once been a niche experiment was becoming part of the broader gaming ecosystem. The release of the Steam Deck further accelerated this shift. Powered by Linux and built around Proton, the device demonstrated that Linux gaming could be not only viable but mainstream. It brought the technology into the hands of millions of users, many of whom had never considered using Linux before. For them, Proton was not a workaround, it was simply how their games worked. The distinction between Windows and Linux became less important, overshadowed by the seamless experience Proton provided. Despite these advancements, the story of Linux gaming's silent revolution remains largely untold. Mainstream coverage often focuses on hardware launches, blockbuster game releases, or corporate rivalries. The incremental, collaborative nature of open-source development does not lend itself to dramatic headlines. There are no singular moments of triumph, no clear beginning or end. Instead, there is a continuous process of improvement, driven by people who rarely seek recognition. These unsung heroes come from diverse backgrounds. Some are professional developers contributing in their spare time. Others are students, hobbyists, or enthusiasts who discovered a passion for problem-solving. They communicate through code repositories, issue trackers, and online forums, forming a decentralized network of collaboration. Their motivations vary, but they share a common belief in the value of open systems and the potential of Linux as a gaming platform. Their work extends beyond Proton itself. Many contribute to related projects, such as Mesa, which provides open-source graphics drivers, or the Linux kernel, which underpins the entire operating system. Improvements in these areas often have far-reaching effects, benefiting not only gaming but computing as a whole. It is a reminder that the boundaries between projects are fluid, and progress in one area can unlock possibilities in another. As we look at the state of Linux gaming in 2025, it is clear that the landscape has changed dramatically. Thousands of games are playable through Proton, with many achieving performance comparable to or even exceeding their Windows counterparts. The barriers that once defined Linux gaming have been significantly reduced, if not entirely removed. And yet, the revolution continues. There is still work to be done, new challenges to overcome, and opportunities to explore. What makes this story compelling is not just the technical achievement, but the philosophy behind it. Linux gaming's rise is a testament to the power of collaboration, the importance of open standards, and the impact of individuals working together toward a shared goal. It challenges the notion that progress must be driven by competition or profit, showing instead that passion and persistence can be equally powerful forces. In many ways, the success of Proton and the broader Linux gaming ecosystem reflects a shift in how we think about software. It highlights the value of interoperability, where systems are designed to work together rather than in isolation. It underscores the importance of user choice, allowing individuals to decide how they interact with their technology. And it demonstrates that even deeply entrenched norms can be changed, given enough time and effort. As the documentary comes to a close, the focus returns to the people behind the code. They are not household names, but their impact is undeniable. Every time a game launches smoothly on Linux, every time a player discovers that their favorite title just works, it is a testament to their dedication. They have transformed an ecosystem not through grand gestures, but through countless small contributions, each building upon the last. The silent revolution of Linux gaming is a story of persistence, collaboration, and belief. It is a reminder that meaningful change often happens gradually, shaped by those who are willing to put in the work without expecting recognition. And as Proton continues to evolve, carrying forward the legacy of those who built it, one thing is certain: the revolution is far from over.